Okay, I'm recording this. Good. Okay. And now for this lab, I received some questions, and I believe other sections also, they have some questions. So to make you all on the same page, we decided to make this session and record it. So this session is about the lab project, networks lab. Usually it's a straightforward. Sometimes we will answer questions from here and there or any ambiguity. So in the beginning, I will be asking Mr. Aus a few questions, and he will be answering them. Then later we see if you have any further questions. Okay, Aus.
Yes.
We have the Gulf 5-star hotels.
Yes.
It has many branches, right? Do you see my
Yes.
screen, all of you? I believe
Yes.
you do. And we have many branches for this hotel. We have Qatar, one city, Egypt, two, Riyadh, Muscat, Manama, and Kuwait City. And here we have the number of what? Employees. Number of employees means number of hosts, Mr. House, right?
Yes.
Yani,
correct.
roughly. Okay, good. And you have been hired as a network engineer to plan and design and implement and troubleshoot the computer network using both IB version 4 and IB version 6. You will see later that IPv6 is only limited to 2 subnets, مظبوط Mr. House, right?
Yes, Kuwait and Bahrain فقط.
Kuwait and Bahrain we'll
only.
talk about. Okay, all other are just what? IPv4, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So is planning to move Gulf 5-star Hotel is planning to move some IT services to public cloud.
Yes.
So all hotels can access these services. This report should include your group choice, plan, design, and implement computer, whatever IPv6. Here I added some notes I received from you, maybe. There is a direct link between Kuwait and Bahrain routers only for IPv6. Is this correct, Mr. House?
Yes, so what happens here, so all these sites, these cities, have to connect to an edge router or core, or an ISP, you can call it. But just to make things simpler, for IPv6 traffic, it can go directly only for IPv6 traffic. It can go between Bahrain and Kuwait. In other words, there's a direct link between them for only IPv6 traffic. IPv4 traffic between Bahrain and Kuwait should go to the edge, and from the edge, it should go to the other side.
So there should be some kind of a central router, right, in the middle?
Yes, yes, it's an ISP. You can consider it like Ooredoo. And in reality, Ooredoo has different branches, and they operate in different countries. Like in Egypt, they have I think in Palestine, in Kuwait, in Oman. That's what they do. So we're going to consider the Ooredoo in Qatar. That's the main one. So there's an ISP or near Qatar somewhere there.
So for each
all of them,
country, you have one router, but all the routers are connected to.
Yes, each country is one router.
One question. For each country, we have a router.
Yes.
And then we have one central router where they are all connected to it. Yes, or
correct,
is that right?
Correct. We're going to call it ISP.
You recommend that router to be BT router, صح ولا لا?
It's better so you can put more cards.
You recommend that router to be BT router?
Correct.
Because it's modular, we can add and remove any type of ports?
Yes.
Cabling should be the highest possible bandwidth?
Yes, yeah, we're looking at, you have to look at the distance between those countries and the amount of traffic. So yeah, they have to pick up a correct cable, which takes into consideration both performance, speed, everything, distances. For example, the distance between Qatar and Ajman, there's a distance between them. Or the edge router, yeah, they have to pick up the right cabling. Yes. Go ahead.
Right. So the first part here we have one central router. Okay.
Correct.
only Kuwait and Bahrain will be IPv6. For each one, we have their own router, but they are all connected to the edge router or centralized. Kuwait and
Yes.
Bahrain, there is a direct link for them since they have, these are the only two IPv6.
Yes.
Is that right, Mr. Aus?
Correct. But for IPv4, between those two sites, they should go through the edge router. So between Bahrain and Kuwait,
يعني,
when it comes to IPv6 traffic, there's a direct link between them. When it comes to IPv4, between Bahrain and Kuwait, they should go, the traffic should go through the edge.
They still need to go to the central router.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so only that link is only for IPv6.
Yes, and nobody should be connected to the headquarters, Qatar. Nobody. All of them connect to the headquarters. Sorry,
Where
all
is
of them,
this
all those
written?
sites. Yes, yes, it's written. All of them should be connected.
Should be?
All the sites, all the cities are connected to the ISP.
Or shouldn't?
It should be. So all sites should be connected to the ISP, and then ISP should be connected to Qatar. There is no direct link between any city and Qatar.
So Qatar Gulf 5-star hotels headquarters is the main centralized one,
Yes,
right?
yes. So if anyone wants to connect to Qatar, they have to connect, for example, have to send their traffic to the edge or the center router, and then the center router is connected to Qatar.
Okay,
it's written there.
All of them. So this is not a physical comment. So يعني there should be, Qatar is not the central router, صح ولا لا? There should be one separate, right?
We already have the separate, which we call the central router. Didn't we call the central router?
Yes.
So Ziad, let me just.
Yeah, go ahead.
So all sites are connected to a center router. You can call it edge router. You can connect it core router, ISP router. So all the sites are connected to the edge, and that edge is connected to where? To the HQ, Qatar. Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, there is no direct link between, for example, Bahrain or Kuwait with Qatar. No, okay. They have to go to the edge or that center router, and that center router is connected to Qatar.
Tamam. This applies to all other like Oman, Saudi.
Yes,
Egypt,
yes, all of them. No direct link.
Tamam. Okay, good. طيب. Let's talk about IP addressing. So
one more thing, Mr. Ziad, just one more thing. So we said all sites of all countries are connected to the ISP, that center router, and that center router is connected to Qatar headquarters, and then the headquarter Qatar is connected to the cloud, or that's another router that has all the services, servers with all the services.
So all the servers are connected to a cloud router that is directly connected to Qatar, right?
Yes, directly to Qatar.
Servers like what? DHCP, for example?
No. So these services are, if you scroll down, please. I think we're getting questions, but let's just finish this before we receive questions.
Yeah, we will answer the questions later.
So see, implement
so like
5.
What, DNS?
Here, Mr. Ziad, number 7, DNS, web server, FTP.
Here.
Yes.
Number 7, right?
Yes, TFTP and email. These are connected through the cloud router. We can call it the cloud router. So they should have a switch, and that switch is connected to that cloud router. And then that router is connected to the HQ, the headquarters, Qatar.
So,
and there should be,
this is
and
explained in number 8, the cloud.
Yes.
This is explained in number 8. The cloud network is connected directly to Qatar headquarters with redundant high-speed links.
With
Can
redundant.
you explain redundant?
Redundant means
more
there's
than
2
one
links,
right?
Yes, it's not one link, it's 2 links. Because just imagine if one link goes down, or I'm relying on only one link, that means all those hotels, they're going to run out of business. They don't have access to the servers.
Okay. This is for availability.
Yes, available. Yes, redundancy, available. Yes.
Okay. All GFS H hotels are connected through centralized core router
Yes.
with no direct links between all of them, and Qatar headquarters implement one application layer service, DHCP, with
Okay,
that organization of all cities.
Now for the DHCP.
Go ahead.
Now for the DHCP.
Explain
for
this number 10, please.
Yes, number 10. So that means each city, each router, each city should have their own DHCP server to provide IP to its LAN. So the DHCP, it's not in the cloud.
So no need for one. Okay, so for each country, you have its own. So this is even simpler. No need for
Yes.
helper address and this thing,
No,
right?
no need for, because it's mentioned, Mr. Ziad. Look at 7. I'm very clear here. It's saying what are the services that should be on the cloud, number 7. And look at number 10.
So DHCP is not one of them, right?
No, it's not one of them. No, it's not one of them. So each city, yes, each router on each city should have their own dedicated server, DHCP server, to provide IP addresses. Is this clear for everyone?
Okay, good.
Okay.
Right. Okay, for IPv6, only for.
So
only
for the
for
IPv6,
Kuwait
for IPv6,
right?
that's only they should have a. So between for Kuwait and Bahrain, they should have another DHCP server, or they can configure the router itself to be a DHCP.
To be a DHCP server.
Yes, and it's
so
they
need
can
to
find
do some
it.
research here.
Yes.
Come on. 11. We teach students in the lab how to make some research, how to use SSH, right?
Yeah, so Telnet, it's not really, to be honest with you, they don't use it. It's not secure. Everything is sent in plain text. So what they use in the industry, they use SSH to remote access. So for example, I want to access the router or the switch. I shouldn't be able to access it through Telnet.
So they need to learn how to set up SSH for the topology, right?
Yes, for all switches and routers. Yes.
No Telnet allowed here, right?
No Telnet allowed. No Telnet allowed. It's not secure.
Okay. طيب, I'll go to number 12. You must have backup static route. So enter here in number 5 first. I think we need to explain number 5 first. Go ahead.
Yeah, so number 5, in order for, so each site should be able to access the other site. For example, a PC in Bahrain can reach and can ping. Let's talk about ping, for example. A PC in Bahrain can ping a PC or can reach to one of the servers in the cloud. Everybody should be able to reach everybody. So we need to do some dynamic routing to speed up this thing. So you need to implement, for example, in this case, in this document, each group have a different kind of routing protocol. I'm talking about this one here in front of me. They should be implement RIP version 2. RIP version 2 for dynamic routing.
If they implement RIP version 2 for IPv4.
4. And RIP
this
next
is very
generation.
easy, Mr. Aus.
نعم.
I just want to make a comment here that this is an easy thing to implement for students.
Yes.
But instead of manually configuring static routes, we will use one of the dynamic routing protocols, right? For IPv4 is going to be RIP version 2. مظبوط
Yes.
كلامي.
Yes, but that's
and
the first thing.
What is
RIP NG
IPv6?
is RIP NG is RIP next generation. That's for IPv6 only between Bahrain and Kuwait.
Okay.
Yes.
So they need to do research for the RIP version 2 and RIP NG. And I believe it's from previous courses. This is very quick to learn.
Yes.
And apply. It's not a big deal. It makes it even easier for students because this is going to be dynamic. If you change any IP addresses later or something, the entries in the routing table will be dynamically reflected there.
Yes, but if you go, Mr. Ziad, to
make
12?
Not all projects. But let me just make a comment. Not all projects will be using RIP version 2. Some projects you ask them to do some other protocols, right?
AIGRP or OSPF.
So make sure you implement the right protocol here.
Yes, yes.
OSPF or any other protocol. This is
Yes.
part of the research. So I'll go back to 12, Mr. House.
Okay, so 12. So what they do,
Here's,
so what happens because that RIP or EIGRP or OSPF, that's just the software. Sometimes they stop running, or they act incorrectly. Somebody runs, that happened. I witnessed this when I was working before. So we need a backup for that. So you need to implement static routes as a backup. So the router should trust the dynamic routing as its main route. But if that falls or something happens to it, immediately the static route should work. And we studied that. But you have to do some configuration and changes so that if the dynamic routing fails or stops, or even you stop it, the static route will work, will be as a backup. So there's something called administrative distance. There's a number that you have to play with that when you're configuring the static route. It's available.
so
You have to do some search.
A static route is something we set up that is manually. Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes dynamic routes will go down. So this is like a lifeline or an emergency exit.
Yes.
That is going to be used. It's very, they know, the students know how to implement static routes, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
So they can just make sure this is going to be like an emergency exit.
A backup. Yes.
Yes, backup.
And to make it a backup, just play with the AD number. Once you're configuring the static route, play with that number, make it bigger.
So in order to make it a backup, not primary route, right?
Yeah, it has to be a backup by playing with that AD number.
If you don't play with the administrative distance, it might be primary route,
It's
right?
going to be primary. You're absolutely correct. It's going to be a primary one, and that's not correct.
And I know I'm correct, but I'm doing this for the students.
Yes, okay. yes.
Tamam. Now, our networks are huge, but when you implement it, this is, I'll explain number 13. Our networks are huge. When you implement it, no need to put more than two BCs and 2 switches per. Yani, the IP design should consider the number of hosts. But when you implement it here, for example, we have 1,000 hosts and 1,000 whatever. But when you implement it, just put 2 switches and 2 BCs. This is, I need to make it manageable. ماشي الحال? It's only concept here. So number 13, 2 BCs and 2 switches are required per network. It doesn't matter how big is the network, but they should all use the right IP addressing. Each router must have a proper host name. This is fine. Each connected interface must have a description. And this is very simple, just one command. And any BC in the network must be reachable. Reachable, yani configuration right. Now I'll go back up a bit, Mr. Aus, to subnetting. Here, we gave the students 1/16 network. This to be used for all IPv4, right?
This is to be used only for private. You mean the network? Private, yes, within the LAN. So within the LAN, where they're putting the IPs between the router and the switch, the LAN. I think it's clear. Yes. They use this one. When it comes to the WAN, means the IP between the routers. They have to use a public IP, which is this one.
And this one should be subnetted like /30,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, they have to be /30, of course, point to point. Yes, yeah. They're /30, yes.
And for IPv6, we have given them this range for Bahrain and Kuwait, right?
Yes, but again, they have to here. They have to use the proper slash. /48 is big. /48.
Yeah, of course. They need to use appropriate. It's written here. So for each subnet, they need to use enough. And this one for WAN, which is going to be /30.
Yes.
And this huge network is given for IPv6, but it's not to be all consumed or wasted. They need to use proper subnet masks for IPv6 and IPv4. And for the WANs, clearly it should be /30 as they have been taught in the lab.
Yes.
Okay, it's clear here. Use a subnet mask for only the number required devices. in each network, VLSM, right?
Yes.
تمام. All addressing Kuwait and Bahrain, implement RIP version 2. I believe we explained most of the. Now implement packet tracer. We know that. Submit soft copy. Discuss the network design, submission, the project carries 10 marks, all this administrative. So I'll go back to see for 10 minutes if we have any questions, Mr. Aus here. We will see Omar Ashraf. Go ahead. Can you use the mic, Omar? Ask your
السلام عليكم
question
دكتور.
and mute it. Just quickly ask the question and then mute.
دكتور بالنسبة للدي اتش سي بي أنا عملت وان سيرفر في الكلاود وعملت اي بي هيلب الادرس. عادي
Okay.
ولا لازم
Aus,
أغيره؟
I have a student who did Anna for me it's fine as long
تمام
as it's right. What do you think,
تمام.
Mr.
هو
Aus?
شغال صح. تمام بس
He,
سؤال
you
ثاني.
did
he,
one server for the cloud that do all services?
Yes, all services
he did a
وعملت اي بي هيلب
DHCP, one
الادرس.
DHCP in the cloud. No, he did one DHCP in the cloud. صح ولا لا?
Yes.
And he used
صح
helper
صح.
address.
Yes.
For me, this is fine as long as it's implemented right. What do you think, Mr. Aus?
I mean, it's fine, but you have to use helper address and
Yes, I
yes.
Yeah, as long as it's implemented right.
تمام
Yes.
دكتور. سؤال أخير بالنسبة
Go ahead.
للستاتيك راوتينج. ستاتيك راوتينج أنا لازم أعمل في كل راوتر أعمل له ستاتيك راوتينج لكل اللانز التانيين وكل الوانز صح؟
Yes.
اوكي يا دكتور بس احنا اوريدي مشغلين الدايناميك راوتنج فلما اعمل
Yep.
ستاتيك راوتنج مش هيشتغل.
No, because you're
هو
going to put
شرح
it
لك.
as a backup. You're going to put
Yes,
it as a
you
backup.
can.
وعشان استخدم الستاتيك راوتنج لازم اشيل الريب صح؟ اشيل
لا
الدايناميك.
لا 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 لا.
No.
Let me answer this. Mr.
ما
Aus
انا
explain
دكتور
this in
انا
details يا عمر.
عملت
عمر
الستاتيك بس مش عارف اشوفه عشان
عمر
الدايناميك
عمر
موجود.
wait.
اوكي
Mr. Aus explained this in details. He said if you put both, a static route will work, but there is a way that you disable the static route, not disable it, make it the lowest
خليه
priority.
عملتها غيرته
Only
administrative
by
distance.
playing with the value of what we call administrative distance. Is that what you said, Mr. Aus?
Yes, and now Omar is saying, I think he said he cannot see the static route. You cannot see it because the administrative distance, or you cannot see the other one, is because you need to change the administrative distance because the routing table will always keep the best one and will
The
take
least
out the other
administrative
ones.
distance صح؟ least.
So that's why you have to play with the administrative distance. So the one that you want to keep should have the less administrative distance.
Okay.
That's how the algorithm works. The one, so I can find different, I can go to the same place from different directions, but there's one that I trust the most. So I have to give it the less AD number. So that's going to be placed in the routing table. That's why you see it and you don't see the rest.
So Omar, your next step is to search how to play with the administrative distance. So the static routes plays only as a backup, not primary route. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It should be quick, yani. But we
Okay.
need you to do some research.
يعطيك العافية.
Sorry, Mr. Ziad. Other questions?
Yeah, we'll see أحمد عبدو. أحمد عبدو أنت Okay, go ahead أحمد عبدو يلا.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
هلا loudly please.
حاضر. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Go ahead يلا
Okay.
we can hear you.
موضوع أنا من الناس اللي عندهم الريبورت EIGRP مكتوب
Yes.
اعمل بروتوكول EIGRP for IPv4 وال IPv4 EIGRP version 3 and there is nothing called version 3 on the internet.
Okay, so for EIGRP, that's for IPv4. For EIGRP, sometimes they call it V3, sometimes called V6. So that's for EIGRP for IPv6.
Yeah, so it's not V3. I think it's V6. It's not
V6. Yes, some they call it 3, some they call it 6. Yes. So the EIGRP alone, that's for IPv4, and the one with 6 or 3, that's for IPv6. Yes. Any other
So
questions?
Ahmed Abdo, in brief, one for IPv4 and you use the right version regardless of the number for IPv6. Does that make sense, Mr. Aus?
Yes, only between Bahrain and Kuwait. Yes.
Okay.
My second question is for the static routes. It's all by the terminal, right? يعني ال static routes دي هتكون ما بين الوانز. It's not inside the LAN. يعني مش لل PCs, just for the ones, right? ولا mainly
you use it for the LANs because a PC for example, in Bahrain, which is in the LAN, in one of the LANs of Bahrain, needs to reach another PC in another LAN in a different location. So it's usually between the LANs.
اوكي يعني اوكي لان once we do a static route وبعدين نحول على DHCP the static route gets deleted. So it has to be
We
something
explained
from
this 2 minutes ago.
لا
yeah,
لا.
I was
You're
أنا
talking
فاهم
about DHCP?
لا yeah, the DHCP is the one that gives you the dynamic route, dynamic address. But the static one that we already put gets deleted every time. And I فاهم that we have to play with the AD, so it's something that we have to do with the terminal صح؟ مش ال IP configuration. And we have to do all these stuff inside the terminal. صح ولا؟
And I don't understand the question.
دكتور
والله I
معلش
didn't understand.
المشكله
طبعا
دكتور المشكله
بالبدايه
اللي عنده
احمد
نفس المشكله اللي عندي. يعني انا عملت الادمنستريتيف ديستانس خليتها لس، بس لما بعمل شو اي بي روت بيظهر لي الراوتنج الدايناميك. لما بشيل الراوتنج الدايناميك لما بعمل نو راوتر ريب بعدين بيظهر الستاتيك. فكده صح ولا غلط؟
Yes, that's why I was saying if both of them appear means the whole algorithm is wrong. So usually the routing table only keeps the best one.
Okay.
It doesn't give you the best 2 or best 3. So it gives you the best route to the destination, to the LAN. So and this is how it works. The router, the dynamic routing protocol trusts something called administrative distance.
Yes.
The lower this number is, regardless. So regardless of how short that other path is going to say, no, I'm going to trust the administrative distance. So let's say there's a static route that goes to a longer path, and there's a dynamic route that goes to a shorter path. Usually it will choose the one with the less administrative distance. So by default, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but just for you, the administrative distance for the static route is 1, right? It's 1.
Yes.
It's number 1. So it's really, it's a small number. And the administrative distance for the routing protocol, for example, for rep, I think it's 90 or 120.
120.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ziad.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
120.
So if you look at 120 and 1, the dynamic routing based on the algorithm, the way that it's written, it will trust the static route. It will say, yes, it's going to a longer path, but since it's 1, I trust it more. You have to tell the router, no, don't trust it. So you have to play with the number.
In brief, make the administrative distance of the static route higher than the one of the dynamic routing, and in this case it will disappear and appears only if the dynamic routing protocol is down.
Is down or
is that
disabled?
right?
Yes.
Disabled
yes, right.
or down.
Now another thing,
Yes.
Ahmed Abdu mentioned DHCP. It looks like you by mistake you mentioned that. DHCP has nothing to do with
address. Sorry, I didn't mean the routing. I meant the IP
yeah,
address.
Yeah. So just Ahmed, play with the AD number. Play with the AD number, and we will, while you're doing the static route. Any other question?
All right, thank you.
Yes, wait, so many questions. Let us say Manaf. One question from Manaf.
يا هلا دكتور.
علي صوتك مناف.
اوكي دكتور انا عندي سؤال من ناحيه الدي اتش سي بي فيرجن 6. تمام. انا لما افوت على الدي اتش سي بي فيرجن 6 هون واعمل كرييت بول بيطلب مني البول نيم والدي ان اس سيرفر الاي بي ادرس تبع الدي ان اس سيرفر فيرجن 6. المشكله بقى انا هون مالي عرفان شلون انه مثلا بدي اساوي الدي اتش سي بي.
Just put any name. Just put any name. You don't have to put the DNS for the main server in the cloud.
طيب في هون عندنا اي بي فيرجن 6 لوكال بول. هي اللي لازم نستخدمها mainly ولا لازم نكتب فوق او نختار الكرييت بول؟ لانه اذا بدي اساوي كرييت بول لازم احط الاي بي فيرجن 6 للدي ان اس. اما اذا بدي اساوي مثلا اي بي فيرجن 6 كلوكال بول بيطلب مني اي بي فيرجن 6 لوكال بول يعني ولوكال بول بريفكس، بس ما بيحتاج الدي ان اس كاي بي فيرجن 6.
يعني شوف so you can either use a dedicated server for this like you're doing for IPv4, or you can use the router anyway. Any kind of way. I mean, I don't want to. You can use any way that will make this work. Either you have a dedicated DHCP server like you did with IPv4, or you can configure the router and use any DNS, and you should have a pool, like even IPv4, you should have a pool. So you can use anyway. And I'm not going to interfere in this. You can use anyway. That's just for Bahrain and Kuwait.
طيب, still we have some questions. I'll go to Bukhari.
Yes.
السلام عليكم.
بخاري, كيفك؟ بعدك عايش؟
والله الحمد لله دكتور، كيف حالك؟ ان شاء الله طيب.
Last time شفتك كان عمرك 17 يمكن. يلا go ahead, ask your question. قصصك طويل انت. يلا.
الله يسلمك دكتور. الله دكتور، في اللي هو يعني خلاص نستعمل اللي هو RIP بين التو راوترز الكويت والبحرين.
Mr. Ziad, I'm afraid that we have some students that do not speak Arabic.
Yeah, ما هو ask him, answer in English انت.
Answer in English? Okay.
And we have some students who don't speak English. هي عندك واحد منهم.
Okay. So we need to use the RIP between two routers. I'm sorry, I didn't know. يعني we just need to do between the two direct configuration between the two routers, Kuwait and Bahrain, using the RIP like you said before, right?
So all routers, of course, need dynamic routing, but there is when it comes to IPv6 traffic, to make it easier, you can put a link between those two routers and configure both with a dynamic routing, but for IPv6. But for IPv4, I mean, there should also be a dynamic routing, and they should go through the edge router. Okay. I mean, because I didn't hear the question at the beginning. So what did you say at the beginning? Hopefully, I answered your question.
So the case is that only for the both routers, Kuwait and Bahrain, we use the IPv6 instead of the rest of.
Yes. Only those. Only those. Yeah, we're just limiting that. Yes. Okay.
So one last question: if my instructor don't respond to any emails until 25th of December, and the submission date is 18th December, and we need to some questions and discuss about the project with him. So what is the case now?
So I mean, by now, you should know all your questions. So you can tell us your questions if you want, and we'll answer them. Me and Mr. Ziad will answer them. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I mean in the near future, maybe I will have a problem. I will face problems or any of that, like before the submission date. So that's what was my question.
Just email
Can I email one of you?
No. No, should email your instructor, Bukhari.
But I think she's not responding.
That's between you and her. That's between you and her. Let's see البراء.
Okay, thank you.
هلا, please mute عبد الله. البراء.
السلام عليكم.
هلا. عليكم السلام.
Doctor, for EIGRP.
Yes.
If we have an interface that does not have an adjacent routers, okay, should we make sure it's passive interface?
So passive is, I mean, you don't have to worry about passive. So passive means I don't want to send my dynamic routing to a LAN. What is the benefit of sending dynamic routing information to a LAN, which is not going to process it? Sorry.
Yes, so do we have to make sure it's a passive?
Does it need any settings, Mr. House?
Yeah, sorry. I mean, we did not request it, but usually they do it. But if you don't do it, passive, the interface facing the LAN, I mean, we're not going to say wrong. It's not secure. I mean, somebody like a hacker can use this information but
it's not needed to get the right.
No. We did not specify, Mr. Ziad. We did not specify, so it's fine. But if you do it, but if you do it, that's good. That's nice that you know and you do it and you're doing this. It's good.
That's the purpose of the project.
Yes.
Let's see, Walid bin Ali.
Yes, doctor, I have a question. For eGroup v3, there's like when we research eGroup, there's just eGroup. There's no v3.
Okay, v6 you need.
Yes.
You mean EIGRP for IPv4 and EIGRP v6 for.
Yes.
Yeah, we implemented it using just normal eGroup. Is that fine?
No, normal is going to work for IPv4 only.
Yes.
You need one for IPv6. There is a version for IPv6. Regardless of its number, you will find it.
Okay, and my second one, as for the deadline of the project, We have a different one from you guys. Will it be all unified on December 25th?
No, it's 18.
Oh,
It's
there's no
18.
section. It's the 25th.
No, not
isn't it?
25. 25 is, we will start, actually, I will have a discussion on the 25. How can I put on the 25 and the 25th? So
Okay.
18, and I mean, Mr. Ziad is aware of this. I mean, we gave a lot of time, and we all of us agreed on this. So
Okay,
it's
and also,
18.
Also, when we're setting up the backup static routing, if
Yes.
you change from if you input the IP addresses and the default gateway and all that in the normal manual way for a PC, and then change to DHCP and then back to static, all that information is gone. So how does it how do we make it stay there, stick there, so it's a backup?
Now you're mixing between dynamic routing, static routing, and then dynamic IP addressing. Right, Mr. Ziad? I mean, your question, can you say your question again? Just slowly say it again.
Okay.
Repeat your question
I'll try
again,
to
please.
rephrase. Can we have a backup static IP? Like if I'm changing from
No,
my
we
PC
call it static route. No,
static
okay.
route.
Okay, so are you talking about static routes or are you talking about IP addressing, dynamic
My
IP addressing?
IP addressing.
Okay, so yes, all the IPs on the PCs should be obtained dynamically by a server, except the servers. They should have static. Now, to fix them,
Okay.
I mean, they're not going to be fixed. I mean, maybe they will disappear. You just have to press on manual dynamic again. They will get the IP again.
Okay. Yes. This is my point. Now, when you say that DHCP goes down, how will PCs have their IP addresses?
He didn't say DHCP. He said
I was talking about
he
Yeah, go
was
okay.
talking about
so we assume
dynamic
that
routing
DHCP
protocol.
is always- Okay, so DHCP is
you're just mixing between two things, just very fast. There is dynamic routing protocol, means the path, and there's DHCP for obtaining an IP address. They're two different things.
okay. Yeah.
So
yeah,
a server
okay.
to give, go ahead. Yeah,
Backup
Mr.
for
Ziad.
the routing protocol, not for DHCP.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other question, Shabab? Let's just try to answer as much as we can.
Yeah, one more question, Ausbas. Ahmed Khalid Zaki. Is it necessary to have PCs in the cloud because it's
No.
in the cloud you need servers only, services.
On the servers, yes, and they should be connected to a switch, and yeah, that switch goes to the router. Yes.
في عنا question من جميلة مش عارف أنا
Yes.
كتير عندي questions here بس هي شيء I changed the metric, make it higher and it doesn't work. I tried many numbers. Can you give her a hint, Aus? Why with the metric?
So not for the metric, you mean administrative distance. The metric is different.
Yeah.
The metric will be calculated based on the
So
when you
she
say
needs to change the administrative distance of
Yes.
the static route, right?
Yes. So it's not the. So I think what you're changing is the bandwidth. We don't need to do that.
Here's her question, Aus. Here is her question. I changed the metric, make it higher and doesn't work. I tried many numbers and the router protocol is OSPF.
Yeah, number one, it's not the metric, because if she's changing the metric, maybe she's changing the bandwidth or the delay. So she
needs to change the administrative distance.
She should change. So while she's configuring the static route, at the end of the command, if she uses the help, there is the administrative distance. She needs to put a number. She needs to put a higher number, higher than the dynamic. So the dynamic will work first. For example, rep is, or let's say a dynamic routing.
Again, Aus, I think نفس problem. They think they will find both.
No, they're not going to find both. If they find both, this is going to be, this is just imagine the packets are going to go left and right. They don't know where to go. You need to just
Let me just explain this to everybody, since I see many questions. It will change. Okay. So for dynamic backup protocols, this is going to be the normal thing that's operating all the time.
Can I share my screen and explain it very fast?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead. We have 5 minutes. Yalla.
Am I sharing now? I think I'm sharing now.
Yes, you are.
Can you see me?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah,
So
we see everything.
Yeah, so I want to go from point A to point B. So should I go like this? Or should I go like this? Now, dynamic routing doesn't care about how many jumps I'm going to go, except RIP. EIGRP and OSPF, they rely on something called bandwidth delay. So this is router 1, this is router 2, and this is router 3. So let's say I put a static route. A static route, say this is the static, and this is the dynamic. Okay, so the dynamic says go from here, the static says go from here. Okay, or even you can put the dynamic and static to go from here. It doesn't matter, both of them to go from here, the static, it doesn't matter. Okay, now what I want in each router, there is what a table, right? And each router has it as a routing table. So let's say both of them are going from here, static and dynamic. Now I want only the information, the best information to go from here to here, to be stored in the routing table. So to do that, so of course each one of them have something called administrative distance. This one has something called administrative distance. Administrative distance has nothing to do with the cost, with the metric, with the bandwidth, the delay. No, it's how much it trusts that route. Usually static routes is 1, means it trusts that one the most. This one, let's say the dynamic, whatever that dynamic routing protocol, let's say it's 200. So in this case, this router, which has this routing table, is going to trust this one or this one? No, it's going to look at the one, regardless of how far it's going, the journey. It's going to say no, regardless of how far it's going, even if it's going to a longer path, it says no, since it has a lesser number, I trust it more. You got my point? Now, what's going to happen after you put this one, let's say, so what you have to do, you need the dynamic routing to be the first one and the static routing to be the second one. So this one should remain 200. And what you need to do, make this one 201. So if you make the static 201, now that's higher than the dynamic routing. So in this case, your router is going to only populate in the dynamic routing table the routes that were learned through the dynamic routing protocol, not through this one. It's not going to show up here. So whatever static route, even if you configure it, it will never show in the routing table. Why? Because it has 201 administrative distance. The one's going to show it's only this.
Yeah, when the static route's going to show? Only when?
So let's say I go and disable dynamic. I disable it. So it has no choice other than showing this static route in the routing table. You will see it there immediately. So both of them are not going to show. That's the point. If both of them show, that means it's wrong. So what you have to do, you have to just play with the administrative distance of the static, because usually the default administrative distance for the statics is 1. And dynamic routing is high. It's usually, it depends. EIGRP, I think it's 90. OSPF is 110. RIP is 120. So you have to give a higher number here. So it doesn't trust it. So again, this has nothing to do with metric. Metric means how far it is. This has this is related to how much I trust it.
Okay, Mr. House, I think we did this. Now we need to conclude this, and the recording will be sent to you, the link to the students. You can review it from the beginning. Some questions were answered more than once. If you have any question, please forward them to your lab instructor, not to us. We did this to help all students. We felt some students need help, and many of them were asleep. And I recommend that you all start by doing twice review the subnetting, the basic design. The basic steps are more important than the advanced steps.
Correct.
You do it
Agree.
incrementally, finish one LAN after the other, and make sure all connections, cabling, and port names, numbers, security. Start the same way you see the project organized. If one step fails, go and do the other things that are unrelated to it, and email your instructor for any other question. We will forward you a link of this, and hopefully it was helpful for you guys and girls. Tamam?
So, yeah, Mr. Ziad, let me say something here. So what do you have? What is the deliverables? So you have to send us the full IP addressing schema that you did for IPv4 and 6 using, for IPv4, you should use VLSM. I mean, if it's not VLSM, it's wrong, because we spent so much time explaining this, theory instructor, it has to be VLSM. And you put it in the document, and then you have to put the topology that you came up with based on the scenario. And then you have to put a first page with your names and your student names. I mean, you shouldn't submit a report without a cover letter, like a page. And what else you should put there? I mean, you should, of course.
I am sharing it, I'm sharing it.
Yeah, you should submit the packet tracer file. I mean, you should show up in the discussion. You should know everything. You should know everything. You shouldn't say, I only did the subnetting, so I don't know anything about packet tracer. Please don't do that.
Regardless of who did the subtask, you should be aware of all the implementations of the project. مظبوط?
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
ماشي الحال يا شباب. So, because we are busy with another meeting, and we will send you a link to this through your lab instructors. It will be available in YouTube so that all of you can access it. ماشي الحال؟ يلا سلام عليكم. Thank you all for coming. مع السلامة. Yes, the grade is individual, ساق الله.
Yes, because discussion is 40% and the other work is 60%. Yes, it's going to be different.